clear, tranquil minds. In verse, uphold wisdom and exercise loving kindness, awaken both compassion and wisdom. So the voice upper path is about developing compassion and wisdom. But obviously compassion is the ultimate compassion, as I shared with you the story of a Sangha, right? But to attain that, broadly, what we need to do is to cultivate the virtues, the virtues of loving kindness, which I will come to later. So uphold wisdom and exercise loving kindness. So you see, upholding wisdom, obviously at the end of the day, what we want to attain is supreme wisdom. But all we can do at the moment in this unenlightened stage is to uphold this aspiration, and upholding wisdom and exercise loving kindness. So loving kindness is holding on to your heart for others. But in compassion, you're wholeheartedly with whoever that you would want to liberate. So that is the main difference between loving kindness and compassion. So sentient beings train themselves with faith for their minds to be cleansed. And training with faith. Why with faith? Because we are not enlightened yet. We haven't crossed over to the other shore. So we have Buddha and the Bodhisattvas, along with the Master and the Sangha, and the Dharma teaching us. So because we haven't crossed over, we haven't seen the other side of the shore, we need to train ourselves with faith. The intrinsic nature of true suchness is untainted by us. So this true suchness, obviously, as you all understand, yes, obviously is untainted by us. It's like a diamond which is deeply buried within us. So, but it's all covered by a lot of filth and layers of afflictions that we have piled up, and all the karmic seeds we have deposited. With minds clear and tranquil, their vows are without boundaries. So the mind clear and tranquil, this is the state of clarity of the mind that we want to attain. The vows are without boundaries. That means it's oneness in all, vastness in the universe. So yesterday I shared with you a contemplation, right? But that's a fine line, and that fine line we have is the boundaries we set. So this is what I want. This is who I am. Outside this line, everything outside, there are the differences between me and others. So when I set that line, that boundary, I can't have compassion. I can't have wisdom. But how can there be a line when compassion is universal and wisdom is supreme? There's no line. But in our daily life, the way we've been brought up, that's where there's a life we're leading right now, because we are in a desirous realm. When the moment you're in desirous realm, we will have lines and boundaries, and that is the part that we try to practice. We need to grow out of this boundaries and lines within us. So in Master's explanation, the purpose of spiritual practice is to change our habitual tendencies by eliminating bad habits and develop good ones. And this is also something that I've always shared with you all, that the purpose of this life is to change our character. Changing character means we transform our unwholesome habitual tendencies to wholesome ones. And this can only come about if we consciously practice. And consciously practice is, first of all, we need to change or transform our mundane mind to a spiritual consciousness. As we earnestly take the Dharma to heart, in addition to giving away worldly possessions, we also need to give to other people the Dharma that we have obtained. By giving material things, the Dharma and the soft and gentle words, in those ways, we are truly upholding wisdom and accessing loving kindness. So much that we give our monetary and material donations, but more importantly, is to work path in the Dharma and to share the Dharma. And that is the part about living the wisdom life. So, I mean, the learning the Dharma, as I've always said, it's not just about studying, right? The Master always mentioned about three flawless study, but studying on its own is only an intellectual development. That upholding wisdom is living wisdom life, and that wisdom life cannot believe that you yourself or we ourselves, we have to grow in the Dharma. We have Dharma in our life. So this, how do we do that? So we can do that, and because we're householders, we live what you call exemplary life. So we need to live this exemplary life of a spiritual aspirant, and that is as spiritual aspirant is someone who spiritual path and holding the spiritual vows that we have, and at the same time exercising loving kindness. So sentient beings must train themselves with faith so that they can eliminate the afflictions and ignorance. So obviously we need to uphold this faith, because in this world that we are living in right now, especially in Dharma degenerating age, there are a lot of doubts, right? And we have become so clever in the ways we have made a lot of inventions, creative in a way to get around things, get around the law, avoiding many hindrances in the material world that have been set. And people also become very crafty as a result. So when you are in under these conditions, faith is important, because otherwise you can easily influence by all we need is someone to convince us otherwise. So this is why we must train ourselves to have this faith. And because we haven't crossed over, there's a lot of doubt. And like I said, 7.7 billion people in the world, less than 10% are actually have accepted the Dharma, or rather accepted the path, let alone the Dharma. So we must always take good care of our minds. If our minds are gentle, naturally everything we do will bring people happiness, and we will not stir up afflictions. So before we can even do that, that's why I mentioned we have ourselves live an exemplary life first, right? So, but to do that, we need to take care of our own minds. So when our minds are gentle, so I want to add more to this. They say being gentle. To become gentle, you need to be humble. You need to be simple. And unless one humbles ourselves, how can we be gentle? Have you find it's hard to find, for example, leaders who are gentle or simple, and that's because humility is not something which is natural to us. Why is that the case? Because the way the worldly convention works, the way the worldly life is being brought up, we strive for things. When we strive for things, we need to be one up over the others. When we are one up over the others, humility, you are actually going to the grain of humility. But that's why there's always saying that when come a good leader, one should be humble. But it's very often that these two are very conflicting virtues. Unless someone conscientiously cultivate and practice humility. And so to do this, and that's the reason why we must say we must take good care of our minds. We can only take good care of our minds if we know our minds. How can the mind know the mind? How can the mirror reflect itself? So therefore, you can only do that when your consciousness have expanded beyond the mind consciousness and look back to observe who you are. And that's when you are able to see yourself. So mostly the story of one of Buddha's past life. Karl passed ago and accepted 1,000 years hammer into his body in exchange for the teaching of a spiritual practitioner. So haven't reached this stage yet, it's far from it. There's a lot of story of Buddha's past life. But okay, this is 1,000 nails which I haven't heard of before. There's also a story, I may have shared this story with you before, and again, there was one of Buddha's past life. And it goes even beyond this 1,000 nails. And he was a prince in that particular life. And so the princes went out of usual, the princes, right? They were on a hunting trip. And at the time, even as a prince, he was filled with great compassion. And he wasn't out there to hunt, so he just followed and observed. And he noticed there was a very scrawny tigress with cubs following her, and clearly there was no food. And out of compassion, and the story goes that, and he observed the tigress was looking for food to feed the cubs, and obviously there was no food, and there's no food. There's hardly any milk for the tiger cubs. And at that moment, he made the decision that he would sacrifice his body to feed the tigress, and he did that. So, and he knew that the tigress was so weak. So how could he then grind his own body to soften his body so that the tigress have the strength to eat him up? So he actually jumped up from a high cliff so that the body can be smashed. So the storyline has it that it's believed that this particular place in that life is in somewhere in Nepal. It's a place where there's a temple there called Namo Buddhaya. I've been there a couple of times. So there is there's a belief, right? There's a small little, if you like, a place of worship that is there. So this is growing through obviously lifetime of cultivation. The point is this: 1,000 years hammer into his body in exchange for the teaching, and that was the resolve that he had to seek the truth. And that is a metaphor that we need to understand. You know, and when I read this, and try to reflect back, and I don't know when I was working, and obviously I every day I have to work long hours and finish late. And then in the evening, I need to rush over for my Dharma class. And here I am, you know, oh gosh, you know, it's heavy rain, got to be traffic jam, I rush over. And that already in itself, I find mental hindrance that I need to overcome. But strangely, that I know this is what it is like when you walk the path. When you walk the path, there are a lot of hindrances will be ahead of you. And it's how you're going to cross that. But I can share with you that the moment you cross that big hindrance, other hindrances that come across will be easier to cross. The biggest hindrance is the initial one. It's just like waking up early in the morning that some of us find difficulty in having. There's a sutra verse and master's explanation in this particular one, and I thought I'll list down this what you call the 6 virtues in relation to the elegant, exquisite silk white cloth. So the 6 virtues the master mentioned is elegant. Once accept the Dharma, our spirit will open up and become spacious without boundaries. So this resonates with what I said yesterday in my contemplation, that once your heart is expansive, your mind will be expansive. And this is what that we need to do. Because when we accept the Dharma, you take our Dharma to heart, and we cultivate be kind, caring, helpful, loving kindness, and eventually compassion. And as each time we grow our heart will become more and more expensive. So exquisite Dharma is wondrous and subtle and intricate ways. We can only experience it in our minds. It cannot be fully described in words. Again, this also I explained this to you all before. The truth cannot be explained. Truth cannot be taught, neither can it be explained. So what then is the Dharma? The Dharma is to guide us, to intrigue our mind, so that our mind search for the truth. So that part for us is for undertake the flawless study. So that's how all these teachings fit in. First of all, teaches the Dharma. We have to exercise the efforts. We must exercise the efforts efficaciously to seek the truth. So we do that with the flawless studies. Fabrics are the merit accumulated in practice. We need to continue to weave and sew blanket after blanket so that they accumulate just like we accumulate merits. Now, why do we do this? So these merits that we develop, and the fact that we are here in this lifetime to able to listen to Dharma means that we have already have practiced in the past to have this meritorious condition to listen to the Dharma, and yet at the same time be able to practice the Dharma. So very much the same way in our future life. But what we need to do is that we need to step out in our future life. That means we do this. And these are what we call, this will result spiritual endowments. And this endowments is, for example, in this life, we need to have a good body. Without a good body, how can you have a good mind? So, but you need a good life. Without a good life, how can you cultivate a good character? Without a good character, how can you then have a good voice, the way we speak? Then we need to have the good fortune to encounter the Dharma, good fortune to encounter the masters, and we have the good influence to be in the Dharma family. Then you can get into a good practice. And then obviously we need to have to encounter the teachings and the path. So these are the spiritual endowments, and that's why we need to accumulate merits. Transcending all worldly meditation, we can do everything in a meditative state, not only sitting, we must put the teachings into practice. So this worldly meditation, I must always often mention, is that we do not get afflicted or get stuck into this meditative state. But so Master always encourages us to do beyond sitting, to meditate in motion. But I think I find it, for me, and it's purely for me, I find it easier when I sit down in a quiet state. But obviously, once I develop that state, then I can get into a stage of meditation in motion. And there are a lot of practices. Sometimes they meditate, walking meditation. I'm not sure whether you heard of this. There's another Zen master it's a Vietnamese, Thich Nhat Hanh. He was in Malaysia, KL once, and I joined one of the class that he conducted. This on walking meditation. So Tzu is also another great master, but he's quite sickly now. He's quite old. Next one is immaculate. Intrinsic nature is untainted by dust. That's what being immaculate. So we need to realize that pure intrinsic nature within us, and that is you like the gem of the diamond, which is within us, which we need to remove. First of all, you need to remove the layers and layers of that before even we can try to polish it. And pristine, the bodies will not be affected by two kinds of hindrances. And you see, this is the point that I just mentioned, right? To have this merits to accumulate so that we have a good body and a good mind. So this is what it is. In order to be in a pristine state, our bodies and mind must always retain their pure state. So what are these two types of hindrances? And although it wasn't quite explained, but I understand that these two hindrances are afflictive and intellectual. Afflictive, obviously, is very easy on the mental afflictions that we have, right? So we have doubts, we do not want to do it. And for 101 reasons why we have that. And indolence is also one of the other one. And the other one is intellectual. Intellectual because I already know it. I totally understand it, and therefore I don't need to go any further. And that's the cleverness and the intellectual affliction that we have. So the lessons learned. So we need to, with the body and mind, accept the Buddha Dharma. And so that means not only that we tame our mind, our body, speech, and mind got to go along with it. And this obviously very simply explained by the Noble Eightfold Path. So when we train ourselves with faith, we can cleanse our minds and return our pure nature of true suchness, which is untainted by us. And so we reach the state of true suchness, liberation in some samsara is through the mind. So therefore we cleanse the mind, but before we cleanse the mind, we need to make sure that our heart is compassionate. So we need to cultivate virtues so that we can grow the compassion in our heart, to expand our heart. Then we extend our mind, and so as when we extend, we're dropping all the afflictions that we have at the moment is of fear. So how can the mind can be extensive? There's a lot of things we got to remove away from our heart and our mind. So this is the true Buddha Dharma. So Master hopes everyone will make use of the Dharma. It is intangible, but we can take it to heart and manifest in our action to fully experience it. So this experience is experiential learning. Much as we have listened to Dharma, we can read the Dharma, but we have to fully experience it. Otherwise, we cannot grow in realization and deep understanding. So in contemplation, be in the path into the mind continuum that is reinforced by your vows. So in the mind continuum, that resonates with what we said this morning, that it's not about this life, it's about future life as well. So therefore, the merits that we cultivate is also for us to have the spiritual endowment to be able to practice into the mind continuum. But this can only come about when you have the aspiration, you hold on to your faith, and this is being reinforced by the vows that we have. So that life after life, the spiritual relationship will not fall apart. And this is important because now that we have encountered the Dharma in this life, and probably in the past life, we got to make sure that doesn't fall apart. Because otherwise, I must always say, a slight deviation can throw us in many, many innumerable lifetimes out of the picture, and it's very difficult to come back. So now that we have realized our greatest embrace that we can give is to live an exemplary life that I just explained. So for us as householders, we are not in the Sangha community. In the Sangha community, they wear the robe. When they wear the robe, they walk out. They walk up with grace. But for us as householders, we got to then live an exemplary life so that we become an example of the Dharmas, so that we need to within illuminate our inner self and faithfully be in practice. And then hold on to the faith that my master is trying to say, so that we can then carry the fragrance and the adornment of the teachings of the Dharma. Otherwise, how else can we share the Dharma with others? So on relationship, and it's a challenging relationship, we have it all the time in our life. So as you traverse the path, you will face challenges of the world living. Traverse means you go back and forth in the path. So a virtue that we learn today, that we think we have already learned. So one teaching we learn will manifest to the next episode. But we have to traverse back sometimes to go back to the original teaching. You know why? Because it comes totally different meaning that comes about. Because that's why it has infinite meaning. So unless you traverse, you will never be able to then realize what other meanings there are there from the same old teaching. You know, sometimes I go back, sometimes I do share with you a contemplation. It's more than 10 years ago that I shared with you. Obviously, sometimes I do, if I remember, I will tell you what was more than 10 years ago. But these are the things that I didn't realize what I did at the time, but the meaning become deeper each time I go back. So like a deep-rooted tree that faces the roar of the wind, and all the challenging relationship that come to us, it's like strong winds blowing at us. But if you're not deep-rooted, we go into a rage, and then we faces the roar of the wind, and that's where the whole relationship become very quarrelsome. So we build the Dharma roots to anchor the perseverance, and this is again one of the six perfection we need to cultivate, that no one can deviate your practice or uproot your vows and commitments of your self-growth. And that's what Master said, right, this morning. And so that faith knows the aspiration we need to hold, but to do this. So even though we are householder in practice, that's why I always share with you every morning. Your relationship, the one closest to you, is one of your great teachers. Okay, Gan En brothers and sisters, thank you.
无限感恩 endless gratitude to our brother Chin for sharing your great insight and wonderful wisdom with us every morning. Even though you are not able to show us how you penetrate the nails into your body, I think this one maybe we leave it another session.